I'm Teisha Bader with the JBS News Update for Wednesday, April the 15th, 2015. Republican and Democratic leaders of the U.S. Senate Foreign Relations Committee reached a compromise agreement in regards to the nuclear deal with Iran, voting 19-0 to approve an amended version of a bill that would give Congress a vote on any final nuclear deal with Iran. Congress would have 30 days to review the deal, then 12 days for a possible veto by U.S. President Barack Obama, and then 10 days for an override vote. The president said yesterday that he would be willing to sign the current version of the bill. Israel's Minister of Intelligence and Strategic Affairs, Yuval Steinitz, called the bill an achievement for Israeli policy, linking it to the speech Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu gave to a joint session of Congress last month. Jewish groups in the U.S. are welcoming the compromise. The American Jewish Committee's Associate Executive Director for Policy, Jason Isaacson, called it a significant achievement. The Anti-Defamation League's National Chair Barry Curtis Lusher and National Director Abe Foxman said the action proved it was possible to find bipartisan consensus on, quote, critical national security issues like the threat of a nuclear Iran. The National Council of Young Israel lauded the system of checks and balances that would now be put into place. And Jewish Council for Public Affairs President Rabbi Steve Gutto said, "This is the way that government is supposed to work." The JCPA also noted the two closed-door sessions the White House held on Monday with members of Congress and Jewish leaders, Gutto among them, to discuss the framework agreement on the Iranian nuclear program, where the president gave a detailed overview of the agreement. And Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu spoke to Russian President Vladimir Putin yesterday to express his, quote, grave concern regarding the future sale of the S-300 air defense system to Iran, something Netanyahu said would only encourage more aggression from the Islamic Republic. Putin, in response, told the prime minister that the anti-aircraft missiles were not a threat to Israel and had only defensive capabilities. A ban that had been in place since 2007 was lifted by Putin on Monday, something Netanyahu and other Israeli officials tied to the recent framework deal agreed to between Iran and the P5+1 in Lausanne, Switzerland. Israel's Channel 2 reported that Netanyahu might travel to Moscow to meet with the Russian leader in person to further address the issue. Israel's security forces arrested 29 members of terror group Hamas overnight last night. The raid took place in Nablus in the West Bank and was, according to Israel's security agency, the Shin Bet, in response to a rise in Hamas activity in the city, aimed at carrying out terror attacks against Israel. The overnight raids were a joint effort by the Shin Bet, the IDF, and Israel police, targeting senior Hamas members and former prisoners who had once again become active in Hamas, among others. They will now be questioned by the Shin Bet. The Cantor Center for the Study of Contemporary European Jewry at Tel Aviv University released a report today on the eve of Yom HaShoah, Holocaust Remembrance Day, that found the number of violent anti-Semitic incidents worldwide increased by nearly 40% in 2014. The report was prepared in cooperation with the European Jewish Congress. One reason for the spike was given as Israel's Operation Protective Edge fighting against Hamas in Gaza last summer, as well as what they called a general climate of hatred and violence fostered by the rise of the Islamic State group in the Middle East. France was said to have had the most violent incidents with 164, followed by the United Kingdom with 141 and Germany with 76. President of the EJC, Dr. Moshe Kantor, said many streets in our European cities have become hunting grounds for Jews. He said some Jews had to now avoid community institutions and synagogues as a result, saying this was the new reality of Jewish life in Europe. Kantor urged stronger security measures, saying the fight must be taken to the attackers instead of allowing it to affect the everyday lives of the victims. And tonight, April the 15th, marks the beginning of Yom HaShoah, Holocaust Martyrs and Heroes Remembrance Day, with the central theme of the anguish of liberation and the return to life 70 years since the end of World War II. The official opening ceremony for the Day of Remembrance was held in Israel this evening in Jerusalem at Yad Vashem's Warsaw Ghetto Square. Speakers included Israel's President Reuven Rivlin and Prime Minister Netanyahu, and torches were lit by Holocaust survivors. And in honor and remembrance of Yom HaShoah, JBS has special programming tonight and tomorrow. At 7 tonight, a Yom HaShoah commemoration featuring Nobel laureate Elie Wiesel from the Fifth Avenue Synagogue in Manhattan, with Rabbi Yaakov Kurmeyer and Cantor Joseph Malavani. At 8 o'clock, former Israeli police detective Yaron Svorai talks about how he became an undercover Nazi hunter and infiltrated neo-Nazi terrorist groups in Germany. Then at 9 tonight, Mark Golub sits with Nobel laureate, renowned author, and Holocaust survivor Elie Wiesel to reflect upon his experience at Auschwitz and his feelings for Jewish life today. And coming up right after this newscast, a L'chaim classic, as Elie Wiesel talks about passages from his iconic biography, Night, which introduced many American Jews to the reality of the Holocaust. And that's the JBS News Update for Wednesday, April the 15th, 2015. I'm Teisha Bader.